The Democratic primary is incredibly important because whoever wins it will get the chance to take on Donald Trump in 2020.
I don't know, how the hell do you lose this election, right?
There are a lot of Democrats who fancy taking a shot at the incumbent president. By September, the Democratic Party rules will have whittled the field down to a more manageable number. September's also the time when polls start to become more accurate if you look at past races. The frontrunner at the moment is Joe Biden, the best-known candidate in the field. He was vice president for 8 years. He was a senator for Delaware for a long time. He's run for president before. Name recognition is incredibly important in American politics, and actually starting with a famous name like Biden's is a great advantage. He's seen as a centrist from the party's sort of moderate wing. Thus far, his campaign has been pretty light on policy. A large part of his appeal really is the idea that put up against Donald Trump, he might be the safest choice. That comes with some risks. Biden is by no means a perfect candidate. He has a long political history that people will be able to rake over. He's also a candidate prone to gaffes we've seen in the past. He's even older than President Donald Trump is. There are some Democrats who feel that it might not be smart to put an older man up against Donald Trump. It might be better for the party to go for some sort of generational contrast, to pick a much younger candidate who can make the president look old and out of touch. Also among the top tier of candidates is Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren, a senator from Massachusetts. In a previous life, she was a professor at Harvard University. She has plans for everything. They may be good plans, they may be bad plans, but you cannot fault her for a lack of detail. She really stands out in the field on that point. She, like Bernie Sanders, is in a sort of leftish part of the party. She's made the theme of her campaign rethinking capitalism. She's in favor of universal healthcare. She wants to put workers on boards, higher minimum wage, and so forth. I'm not sure there's room for both her and Senator Sanders, ultimately. I think they're competing against each other. They will draw votes from each other. You've got Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont. Familiar figure to many people from his run in the 2016 Democratic primary where he was beaten by Hillary Clinton. He's a self-avowed socialist, something that until quite recently was pretty rare in the Democratic Party. He's been in favor of a lot of progressive policies like universal healthcare, sort of long before they became fashionable, and that's given him a certain amount of credibility. But Sanders is still seen as being a big risk, as being too left-wing for a lot of Americans, or at least for a lot of the states that a Democratic presidential candidate would have to win to have a realistic chance of getting to the White House. But I'm sure he'll be in the race right to the end. Pete Buttigieg is the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. He's doing well in the polls at the moment. He's popular, particularly among well-educated sort of urban Democrats. If you told me before 2016 that the mayor of a small Midwestern town would be not only running for president, but would be in with a shot of getting one of the major parties' nominations, I would have thought you were nuts and tried to sell you some real estate. But Donald Trump changed all the rules. Buttigieg is doing rather well. He has lots of policies for all sorts of things. One of the most striking ones to my mind is that he'd like to put an extra few justices on the Supreme Court to try and counterbalance the conservative justices who've been placed there in the past couple of years. Kamala Harris is a Democratic senator from California. Before she was a senator, she was a prosecutor. She's an interesting candidate for a number of reasons. If Joe Biden slips up in some way during this primary, then who will benefit from that? It looks at the moment that Kamala Harris might be the best placed person to benefit. She's in a similar sort of lane in the party to Joe Biden, but she has a couple of other things going for her. She would be the first African-American woman to get the nomination, so her candidacy would have a certain kind of historical dimension. Early in her candidacy, she attached herself to a lot of policies from the progressive wing of the party, where it seemed like that was where the energy really was before Joe Biden stepped in. So she said she was in favor of Medicare for all, for instance, debt-free college, raise in the minimum wage, and so on. One challenge for her is relative to Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. She's really not particularly well known around America. Then there's a whole group of candidates behind that leading group. Just to mention just a highlight, a smattering of the best ones. Beto O'Rourke, former congressman from El Paso, a border town in southwest Texas. He's best known for having run Ted Cruz close in 2018 when he ran for the Senate, and he was such a charismatic campaigner that he attracted a lot of political attention nationally, a lot of donations, and his presidential primary run is kind of a springboard from that. There's Amy Klobuchar, the senator from Minnesota. She's from the moderate part of the party, and the strongest point in her favor really is that she does well in the Midwest, where she's from. She outpolled Hillary Clinton substantially in her home state of Minnesota when she was up for re-election. So if you were looking for a woman at the top of the ticket and somebody who might be able to win back those key states in the Midwest that Democrats lost to Republicans in 2016, then she might be a good place to look. There's Cory Booker, Democratic senator from New Jersey. He's long been seen as a rising star in the party. He's got an interesting record, actually, as mayor of Newark in New Jersey, particularly as an education reformer. He tends not to talk about that very much now because some of the things he did annoyed teachers' unions, who are an important constituency in the Democratic primary. But, he's somebody to take seriously as well. These primaries will partly be a referendum on what sort of party the Democratic Party is these days ideologically. There are a lot of people who think that the party's moved to the left. If they're right about that, then you'd expect Bernie Sanders, perhaps Elizabeth Warren to do well. There are a lot of other people who argue, no, it really hasn't. The thing that Democrats want most of all is to pick somebody who's going to beat Donald Trump. They're not particularly ideological as a party, less ideological than Republicans. And so if that's the case, you'd look at somebody like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, perhaps Amy Klobuchar.